Here's my thoughts on the new PicoFly mod chip that came out for the Nintendo Switch. Let's get into it. Now, you won't be able to see it too much on camera. This is the PicoFly. This chip is essentially a chip that kind of mimics the HWFly chip. Don't ask me. I do not understand how most of these work. I do understand that there's some glitching that happens with the CPU, probably similar to the Xbox 360. I'm not exactly sure how everything works. But anyways, I ended up buying a one-off version that was developed in China. The install was a little crazy, but I did end up getting it going. So one prerequisite on installing this chip, I don't know if it was just that I got a bad CPU ribbon or however. I think it was probably that, but I'm not 100% sure. But my CPU ribbon just would not work for whatever reason. I do not know. The chip wouldn't glitch. It gave me issues if my CPU ribbon was soldered in, even though it was soldered in perfectly and better than what came out of the factory. But ultimately, what I ended up having to do is just solder wires to the MOSFETs directly. So it turns out I probably had a bad CPU ribbon ultimately. Here I have, this is my wife's Nintendo Switch. So I have the V1, she has the V2. So we'll go ahead and turn it on and we'll see, does it turn, oh, there it is. It glitched like almost immediately. Sometimes it takes a couple seconds to glitch. This time it just glitched immediately, but we'll try it one more time. Let's see. Okay, turned it on. Oh, there it is. Okay, so yeah, sometimes it takes a couple glitches for it to turn on. It reminds me of the Xbox 360 days when you had to put a mod chip in for RGH 1, 2, 1.2, and now RGH 3, which apparently is like close to Instaboot from what I hear. Anyway, so yeah, my thoughts on the Pico. If you're going to install a mod chip in your Switch, you really do need to have some prior soldering experience. And the reason why I won't cover it on my channel installing the chip is because there is a big bad Nintendo that definitely wants to come and sue me, and I don't want to be in the crosshairs of Nintendo. So I just decide that I'm not going to do that. For right now, there are plenty of install guides and install videos on YouTube, and you can just do a quick Google search and you can find all of the diagrams and all the help you need online. Now, my thoughts on installing it, it kind of reminds me similar of the Trinket install video that I did. The soldering is obviously identical and similar in a lot of ways, but I think that if you're going to attempt a mod like this, you should definitely do some practice soldering first, because there are some very, very fine soldering points, especially if you're going to be installing the ribbon that goes around the APU. You don't want to put too much heat in that area because you could move those capacitors that you solder the ribbon to, and then ultimately you could destroy your Switch, and you don't want to do that. Now, my thoughts on the chip itself, it's amazing. It's a good chip. It actually does work very well. So if you do see this Pico 0.3 chip floating around on AliExpress, it actually does work really well. So I did end up having to solder a USB cable to the chip so we can program it. So I don't know if it comes pre-programmed. You could try it yourself and just see. But if you're gonna buy a chip like this, you should probably buy more than one CPU ribbon if you don't have the ability to do what I did with the MOSFETs. You know, doing stuff like that does take a lot of practice and a lot of experience to solder stuff that small and to do it intricately like that. Since I do stuff like this all the time, it wasn't too difficult for me. That it still wasn't an easy feat. I will say that it was a little difficult. If you do want to do this mod, you definitely should probably buy like multiple CPU ribbons, just in case if you run into the same issue like I did where you can't use the ribbon at all. Now, I've had lots of people ask me since the Trinket install video if I would do perform installs for them. And unfortunately, I won't do it publicly. I used to do installs publicly back in the RGH days for the Xbox 360, but because of a lot of the legal stuff going on with Nintendo nowadays and what's been happening to a lot of people, I'm avoiding it altogether. And plus, I mean, realistically, most people can do these types of mods themselves. Yeah, so if you want to see a mod that's similar to this, I will leave a link right here on the screen. And essentially that video is me installing a Trinket into a V1 Switch, and that chip is actually really cool. If you want to check it out, you can check it out there, and I'll hang out with you, and I'll see you in the next video. We'll chase the fix next time. Take care.